You're born to an aristocratic family in Brussels in 1880, and your parents named you Adrian Carton de Wiart. Your mom's Irish, and your dad's a powerful Belgian lawyer and diplomat. Or at least that's what your mom says. There's a lot of rumors going around that your real dad was actually King Leopold II, the King of Belgium. Not really someone you'd want to be related to anyway. Your mom dies when you're 6, so nobody finds out if that's true or not. Your father remarries, and he and his new wife decide the best thing for you would be to study law in England. Your dad really wants you to follow in his footsteps, and he chooses a prestigious boarding school in Oxford. So you go and try to make your dad happy. But while at school, you start to learn about war, and it sounds amazing! So amazing, in fact, you decide that you're going to go to war as soon as you can. You finally get your chance when war breaks out in South Africa in the Second Boer War. Just one problem. You're only 19, and the age requirement to enlist is 20. Not to mention, you're not actually British. No matter, you make up a fake name, Trooper Carton. Say you're 25 and submit your application. If the British don't take you, you'll go fight for the Boers instead. The British don't run a background check, and you're off to South Africa to fight for Team Britain. Actual war is so much more intense than the teachers made it seem. Trenches, mud, barbed wire, explosions, people dying everywhere. It's everything you hoped it would be. You notice that the enemy has set up barbed wire that's preventing your allies from advancing, so you go to your colonel and ask for permission to run up and move the barbed wire out of the way. He calls you a fool and says no. Super lame. But you soon learn why he called you that when Boer snipers shoot you in the stomach and groin. These injuries send you to the medics, who discover your real identity, and you're shipped back to Oxford as soon as you're healed. Back in Oxford, all of your classmates think you're super cool and a hero, but you're depressed that your war experience was dull with no glory. You stay in the British Army and are deployed to India, where it's super boring. You spend most of your time getting jacked and hunting. After serving the crown for 8 years, you finally become a British citizen. In 1914, you're really itching to get back to war, so you go ahead and sign up to get shipped out to British Somaliland. You're gonna get to ride a camel and fight some guy they're calling the Mad Mullah. You're super excited. But as you're on the way to Africa, the absolute worst thing that you could ever imagine happens. The Great War breaks out, and Britain declares war on Germany. The other soldiers are gonna get to fight the best army in Europe, and you're stuck on a boat, heading to Africa where you'll be riding a camel and fighting this Mad Mullah guy. Ugh. You decide to make the most of it and rush out to the front lines to fight the dervishes. They're pretty aggro, and maybe fighting here isn't all that bad. You sneak up on the enemy, so close that you can touch them with your walking stick, and they see you and begin shooting at you. You get shot twice in the face and get hit in the eye and the ear. You get shipped back to England, and your eye is so messed up, they can't save it, and it's removed. This actually worked out really well, because now you can ask to go fight in the Great War. The front lines in Europe really need experienced officers just like you. But there's a problem. They don't want to send a guy with an eye patch to the front lines because they think it'll make the army look weak. They say they'll let you go if you wear a glass eye. You agree and sign the papers to get yourself deployed. On the way home, you remove your glass eye and toss it out the window of your taxi and put on a black eye patch instead. You're sent off to France to fight in the Great War, and boy, this one is even more intense. Trenches, barbed wire, artillery shells exploding all over the place. Oh, it's everything you hoped it would be. You wander up to the front lines, and everyone keeps telling you to duck for some reason. How are you supposed to see all the explosions if you keep ducking? Your second in command comes up and tells you, "I really wish you would duck when those shells come." Just before you can answer, another shell comes and knocks you both off your feet. You stand up, dust yourself off, and see a hand next to you. That glove looks familiar. Ooh, that's not good. You march your men forward through the trenches and find some dead German bodies on the road ahead. It looks pretty suspicious, so you and your men go to investigate. Aha! Just as you expected! A trap! And now they're shooting at you! You get knocked to the ground, and when you try to push yourself up, your left hand isn't working right. Ooh, that's not good. Your palm is completely shot through and your fingers are barely hanging on, only attached by some skin. And the worst part? You decided for the first time ever to wear a wristwatch that day. Well, now that watch is blown to bits and embedded in your arm. You run and make it back to the medical tent and ask the doctors to pull off your fingers. They tell you no and say it would be too dangerous. Oh my God! For the next few years, surgeons try to save what's left of your hand, and eventually you get sick of them failing, so you ask them to just cut it off. So now you got one eye and one hand, and you get yourself back into the trenches. You find yourself at the Battle of the Somme. Over 1 million soldiers will die in this battle, and you're right in the thick of it leading the charge. On July 3rd, 1916, you lead your division to attack WWII, one of the strongest German-held positions. The offensive is brutal, but you're leading your men well, firing at the enemy, pulling grenade pins with your teeth, and encouraging your troops. By night, all of your fellow commanding officers are dead or wounded. Out of nowhere, you're suddenly knocked to the ground, and you quickly check yourself for wounds. Hand? Check. Eye? Check. Head? Uh-oh. The back of your head has been blown off by a machine gun bullet, but luckily, it missed all the vital parts. Okay, alright, seriously, what does that even mean? You spend 3 weeks in the hospital for this one, but while there, you receive the prestigious Victoria Cross for your efforts at the Somme. This just makes you want to go fight some more, so as soon as you can, you're right back in the thick of things. First, at the Battle of Passchendaele, where artillery fire catches you on the hip, blowing off your clothes. Next, at the Battle of Cambrai, where you're shot in the leg and almost lose it. And then at the Battle of Arras, where you get shot in your other ear. By this point, the generals and the doctors are all urging you to stop going back out to the front lines. But what do they know? In another one of your medical stays, you're lying in a stretcher, upset with yourself at just how quickly you found yourself back in the hospital, and a clergyman making his rounds spots your sour face. He approaches you, observes your eye patch, and tells you, "Cheer up, it could have been much worse. A few months ago, I saw a man come through here who was missing both an eye and an arm." You ask him to tell you the name of this soldier, and the clergyman replies, "General Carton de Wiart." What? The war ends and you find life pretty boring back in England. So you move to Poland, where literally every one of their neighbors are trying to destroy them. You get to fight against the Soviets, the Ukrainians, the Lithuanians, the Czechs. It's everything you hoped for. While living in Poland, you try air travel and end up in an airplane crash, but survive. You decide to take a train instead on your next diplomatic mission, but your train is attacked by Cossacks, and you have to fire at them while hanging off the back of the train. You fall off and quickly scramble back on, all the while continuing to shoot at them till they disappear. Poland is nice, and you retire and spend the next 16 years there hunting every single day. Life is good. Until a failed Austrian painter starts another massive war in Europe. Poland is quickly invaded by both the Soviets and the Germans, and you barely make it out of there alive. You eventually make it back to Britain, and at 60 years old, you're given your old rank and sent out to fight the Germans in Norway. Your mission is to take Trondheim, but the situation is horrible. In your opinion, the Allied soldiers in this war are nothing compared to the ones that fought in the first one, and the Germans are kicking your ass. Eventually, your unit is pulled back, and you end up in North Ireland. You think your military career is over, until you get selected for a special diplomatic mission to Yugoslavia. You board a plane in Cairo and set off for Belgrade, hoping that this plane doesn't crash this time. Your plane crashes off the coast of Italian-controlled Libya, and when you swim to shore, you're quickly arrested. You're identified as a valuable prisoner and moved to Italy, where you remain captive for 3 years. You attempt to escape 5 times, and on the last attempt actually make it out and spend 8 days in northern Italy disguised as a civilian who spoke no Italian and had an eye patch and was missing his hand. Di giorno. You're recaptured again, and eventually Italy wants out of the war. They use you as a bargaining chip with the British and offer to dress you in a fine Italian suit. You tell your captors you won't object to free clothes, as long as they don't make you look like a gigolo. You get sent back to Britain, and shortly after, your good friend Winston Churchill asks you to be his representative in China. You fly there, this time without crashing, and you quickly take a liking to the Chinese people. Though there's one person in particular you're not too fond of. This guy Mao Zedong seems to love communism, and you do not like it one bit. In a dinner where he's giving a speech, you interrupt him and tell him he's wrong and that he should spend less time yapping and more time attacking the Japanese. Mao, startled, looks at you for a bit, then laughs. Japan finally surrenders in 1945, and you participate in the formal surrender ceremonies as one of the representatives for Britain. As the war's over, you finally retire for good at the age of 67. On your way back home, you make a stop in French Indochina and slip on a coconut mat, breaking a few ribs and knocking yourself unconscious. Luckily, you survived because that would have been a terrible way to go considering everything else you'd gone through. You retire to Ireland and write your memoir and eventually pass away peacefully at the old age of 83. In your autobiography, you reminisce on your time in the Great War and write, "Frankly, I enjoyed the war."